So I do want to try to steer us. I don't know how long you've got, but I do want to steer us back to the science, because I have a friend called Shinobi Yaka who is into looking at the data, and he has asked me that the graph that I posted, the IPCC AR4 and AR5, seem to display a divergence between prediction and observation. Even if we ignore any potential bias, the pattern does seem to be common between both sets of graphs. And what is his explanation? So what he said, I think this is the divergence between the models, what the models predict, and what the actual observations are. And I think his point is, if a model fails to be predictive, how reliable is the science? I think is the ultimate question here. I mean, would you agree that a theory has to be predictive to be worth anything?
That's one of the reasons why most scientists accept and understand climate change. The predictions have panned out. I think he's talking about this graph. You can see it there, which was on your website. Now,
then he sent a more one from the IPCC. Which is essentially an update of that, which shows a very similar thing. So this is what he's talking about. Yeah,
I that one I don't have, but this is the one that was on your video, because I was going to talk about this one anyway. I took a look at this, and it was apparent to me right at the beginning that it's got problems, so many problems, that it clearly didn't come from a peer-reviewed scientific paper. And in fact, I said that in my comments on your website. I said it doesn't have any margins of error, which you would always get with estimates like this. It's showing mid-tropospheric temperatures. Mid-tropospheric temperatures are 20 kilometers up, and it's showing only those mid-tropospheric temperatures in the tropics. So you've got a very small part of the world and a very small part of the atmosphere where the models, apparently, according to this graph that hasn't been peer-reviewed, don't work. But that's ignoring the place where we actually live, which is the lower troposphere, where the models actually have been very good. The IPCC, way back in 1990, predicted 0.2, I think it was 0.2 to 0.5 and degrees per decade, which is pretty much what's happened. It's somewhere in the region of 0.2 to 0.3, depending on whether you include the aerosols or not. So the predictions have been very good. I actually did a video on this recently when Molyneux was interviewing Christopher Monckton, and they were talking about models. And Molyneux didn't fact check any of this. He just accepted whatever Christopher Monckton was saying. And I looked at this, and I was actually quite surprised myself, because I assumed that, well, models, computer models, I don't understand them. But how can you predict something in the short term when you've got so many unpredictables? And one of the big unpredictables was the economic growth of China and India, which have put up a lot of aerosols, which, as we know, have a cooling effect. And yet the models from 1990, which were very crude, have actually come to be very, very close, almost a perfect fit with what's happened. There was a paper that was done about this, which I quoted, which had a look at the models, and it did show that they were very good. So yeah, you can probably cherry pick halfway up the atmosphere in one particular spot. They might have got it wrong, but in the rest, I would say, that's something's coming up on my screen. That's you, is it?
I'm trying to find the. Can everyone see that? What I'm showing there?
I've got the entire screen full of lots of folders and pictures. So
let me see if I can bring up the I guess the updated, or the one that my friend got from the IPCC, because this is the one. He's basically saying that you can see very similar results in this one, regardless of the biases or not. I guess his basic point is that in those ones, I'm trying to get it up here. Hold on.
That's all right, because I'm going to be bringing one up as well, and this is the IPCC. I have to say, I never quote the IPCC in my in my videos. So I'm not necessarily going to defend the IPCC here, but if we are talking about their prediction.
Can people see this?
Now, oh yeah.
Yeah, I've made it a bit smaller.
Ah, yes, but when was this? This is from what date?
He did. Well, I don't have that info. I was just sent this by a friend of mine who said
it looks to me. Is that a 5-year running average, or what is it? I don't even. Is it a 5-year running average? This?
I don't know. He got. I know he got this from the I know he got this directly from the IPCC.
I would. I mean, honestly, I'd be happy to look at it. But my first instinct would be to say, okay, what is it representing, and what exactly? Because I don't read IPCC reports, I have to admit. This is just a hobby for me. This isn't a passion as it is for a lot of people. But I've got, I don't know if you can see on my screen there, this is from the 1990 IPCC prediction of global temperatures. I think this is 1990. Rates of increase in global mean temperature of about 0.2 degrees C per decade, scenario B, which was the kind of, I think that was a scenario where CO2 levels wouldn't go up as much as expected. And 0.2 degrees centigrade is pretty much spot on with what we've had over the last 30 years. So I drew a graph myself, and don't ever take any graph that I do as being a perfect representation. But I did look at the scenario B representation, and I'm just going to see if I find it. And is it come up on your screen or not?
Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
Okay, that's the scenario B in light blue, and that's against NASA's temperatures. Now that takes it up to, I think, 2014, 2015, which, and you know, there was a slackening off of the rate of warming because we had a period of lower solar emission. We also had a lot of La Nina, strong La Nina years, which absorbed a lot of heat from the atmosphere that went into the ocean. You're not going to expect global temperatures to go up in a straight line. They never do. If you think from January to July in Britain, if you take the daily temperature record, you're not going to see it go up in a perfect straight line to correlate with the fact the sun's been getting brighter.
I think the point is that there has been a divergence, hasn't there, between the observed temperature and what the models predict. The models,
well, not according to
as they say.
Not according to the research that I've seen, and I've looked at papers that have looked at the results. There certainly was a divergence in the early 2000s, but like I say, you're not going to get it following in a straight line. But most of the research that I've read on this says the models have been very good. They're very accurate. There's still really no difference to the original prediction that a doubling of CO2 will cause warming of around 3 degrees centigrade. That most of the results still cluster around there. And that doesn't just come from computer models, by the way. Computer models are just one facet, and reason I don't have a lot of faith in them is just there are too many variables in short-term computer models. They're done for the sake of policymakers so they can get some idea of how much temperatures are going to rise in the next 10 or 20 years, but I wouldn't expect them to be accurate. I'm quite surprised that they are. As a geologist, I am much more interested in looking at how temperature has responded to carbon dioxide increases in the past. And you can take a lot of periods in the past where these can be measured. And you take a given amount of CO2 increase in concentration, you look at the temperature response to that, and you can do that over and over again throughout the geological record. Gives you a very good idea of how much of an effect CO2 has. And interestingly enough, that comes out almost exactly in the same place that a lot of the computer models come out at, a lot of the volcanology models come out at. And, you know, the fact that they're all agreeing with one another is another, what's the word, another piece of evidence, basically, that is consistent with CO2 being the strong driver of global warming that they think it is.